What are the 10 movies you cannot live without? These are mine.
Welcome back, sir. All systems for gaming will be prepared in a few minutes. For now, feel free to grab a cup of coffee and have a good day.
Hey everyone, Mike here. Welcome back to the Marvel Man Cave. Today's video, I'm going to go through my Desert Island top 10 movies. The movies that I absolutely cannot live without, with some rules. I was inspired by a video over on The Real Reserve, who I will link to down below. Please check out his video. But he was going through like the top 10 movies that he just had to have. Like if he had to get rid of everything else in his collection, those would be the 10 that he would keep. So it kind of got me thinking. I'm like, oh, I like a good desert island scenario. I've been in the mood to watch Castaway, so it kind of got me thinking. Castaway is not on this list, but got me thinking. I'm like, all right, if I'm gonna do the list, like it'd be very easy just to go through my letterbox top 10 and just be like, all right, these are my 10 favorite movies of all times. But I have more than 10 movies that I've rated 5 stars over the course of my life. And honestly, there's movies in it that I've ranked that I'm like, I haven't seen for a very long time. So I was like, well, do I want to keep movies that I like but aren't rewatchable? So rule number one for me was like the movie had to be rewatchable. I've had to have watched it at least multiple times because those to me are the movies that I really can't live without. And that kind of got me thinking. I'm like, all right, what other rules can I put in place? Because it would be very easy. Like, I'm going to put the entire Star Wars series. Like, do you put 1 through 9, the original trilogy? Like, do you do the entire John Wick? Do you do the entire MCU? Like, to me, that was cheating. So I wanted to put some rules around it other than rewatchability. So these are the rules that I put in place for me. You can do what you want, but I definitely want to hear what your top 10 movies are. Leave them in the comments below. So I touched on it, but rule number 2 for me was no franchises. So we went for like the MCU, Star Wars, I would say even like Back to the Future, John Wick, name a franchise, and that kind of qualified it. I wasn't going to pick like Civil War, Captain America Civil War, and like Fantastic Four. I was like, all right, if I got to pick one MCU movie to last me the rest of my life, that's what I'm going to pick. So that's what I went with. Rule number 2 is I wanted to find the movie that I felt was the best from a specific director. I didn't want to pick tons of Christopher Nolan movie, even though I love Christopher Nolan. I could easily pick The Dark Knight and then pick Dark Knight Rises or pick another Christopher Nolan movie. But I was like, you know what? We're going to limit myself as like, I want the movie that I think encapsulate the specific director's career that I enjoy the most. So that was rule number, I think we're at rule number 3 now. And then really the last rule was like, it just had to be pure fun. These aren't all movies that I would say are the greatest of all time, but they're movies that I truly enjoy watching. I don't seem to get tired of watching them. When I'm looking for something just kind of like on a lazy Saturday afternoon or a rainy Sunday, I'm like, I'm in the mood to watch this. That was kind of my rules that I put around watching my Desert Island top 10. So let's get into it. I don't have these in any order. I didn't rank them 1 to 10. They're just the 10 movies. And I am going to do 5 honorable mentions because it is just too hard to pick 10. And I feel like some of these just deserve a mention. But one of the first movies I went with was the movie Faster. I know this is probably kind of an odd one. It's Dwayne Johnson, Billy Bob Thornton. It is. I'm not kidding. Like this is not a great movie by any means, but I've watched this movie countless times. This is kind of my. I just want something in the background that I can glance over and watch, and it's just entertaining. I think Billy Bob Thornton is good in it. The Rock probably had a very easy time memorizing his lines. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue in it. It's also got I can't. I'm never going to pronounce her name right. Carla Gugino. I always get her name wrong. And it's got the guy who did the voice of Coltrane in Gears of War franchise for Xbox. Well, I guess it's for PlayStation now too. But I actually love that actor. He plays a part in it. It's just a good movie. Dwayne Johnson is basically framed for a murder he didn't commit, and he goes and he gets out of prison and he exacts revenge on the crew that killed his brother. That is the entire plot. You don't need to know anything else. That's the first 5 minutes of the movie, and it just drives from there. It is nonstop action. It is a pure fun movie. This kind of reminds me of like Commando in the old early 80s movies where it's just like, we're just going to set someone on a path and just go. It reminds me of John Wick in that way too, because it's just like, all right, here, first 5 minutes, this is what we're doing. Go. It's just pure adrenaline and pure fun. A complete shift in tone is Good Will Hunting. I absolutely love this movie. I mean, I was trying to think like what Robin Williams movie would I go with? And that is a really hard question to answer. I really wanted to go with Mrs. Doubtfire. I was like, Mrs. Doubtfire is an all-time classic. I absolutely love it. But Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite movies. It was honestly, it ultimately came down between this and Dead Poet Society. And I just went with Good Will Hunting because I think everybody's performance in this movie is phenomenal. Robin Williams, for the amount of screen time he has, steals every scene. It's fantastic. This movie will make you laugh. It'll make you cry. It'll make you think. It'll make you feel like you're wasting your life. And so to me, this movie it's perfect. Like this movie to me is absolutely perfect. I absolutely adore it. And I was like, if I had to have a movie that would kind of make me really love Robin Williams all over again, it's Good Will Hunting. Now we're going the animated route, and I'm going to pick the movie Up. I picked this. This is kind of the movie that my wife and I would say, enjoy the most. Maybe I don't know if it's our favorite Disney movie of all time, but our wedding we themed after Up. We did the mailbox. We did a bunch of stuff that kind of came from this movie. We recreated the photo of Carl and Ellie, and we had people sign it for our wedding. This movie just holds a special place in my heart for that reason, because so much of our wedding was tied into it. So it brings back those feelings as I'm watching it. So obviously, I can't go without having this movie for the rest of my life. I'm realizing now I absolutely did nothing in terms of like kind of ramping up a style of movie or anything like that, because we're going from a Disney Pixar movie up to Jackie Brown from Quentin Tarantino. This was hard because I rewatch a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies over and over and over again. I couldn't pick Kill Bill because I was like, which one am I going to go with? Kill Bill Volume 1 or Volume 2? So I was like, I can't have both. So which one am I going to pick? There's so many. Pulp Fiction felt like a natural. All his movies I absolutely love, but the movie that I always keep coming back to is Jackie Brown. There's just something about this movie. I think it's honestly because Samuel L. Jackson plays more of a lead role, and I love him speaking Quentin's dialogue. I love him in Pulp Fiction, but I feel like him playing the bad guy in this one was just so much fun. Even Robert De Niro, who doesn't have a lot of role, Bridget Fonda, her character's fun. Obviously, Pam Grier is great in this, and I'm forgetting the other actor's name off the top of my head, but that guy right there, he's phenomenal. I know I'm just forgetting his name off the top of my head. It's great that Michael Keaton plays the same character that he played in, I believe it was Out of Sight, because they were both Elmore Leonard books, but different studios had the rights to them, but Quentin got them to give them the rights to let Michael Keaton play the same character. That's a fun little detail. Just a very fun movie, great dialogue. I mean, it's a Quentin Tarantino movie, one of my absolute favorites of all time. And if I had to pick a Quentin Tarantino movie that I could not live without, it's going to be this one. In a similar vein, at least I'm staying in the same kind of genre-ish. I'm going with The Godfather, the original Godfather. It'd be between this and Godfather Part 2. This series, the whole trilogy, I really like. I don't even mind Godfather 3. I know that's probably a controversial opinion, but I even like Godfather 3. The Godfather is a perfect movie. I remember the first time I watched this when I was in college and I was kind of taking some film study classes. One of my professors recommended this movie to me, and I immediately went to the video store back in the day, rented it, watched it. It's 3 hours long. As soon as it finished, I literally just put it right back in and started watching it again. I think the movie's perfect. I honestly, this is a little embarrassing. Keep in mind, I was in my early 20s. I didn't even realize that Al Pacino was in this until my third viewing. To me, he looks so much different in this movie, the young Al Pacino. And at that point, I'd only ever seen Al Pacino as the older guy. I didn't recognize him. And I remember telling my dad about that, and he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. I was like, you grew up with Al Pacino. You saw him age. I was like, I've only ever seen the older one. So to see the young one, like, that's kind of embarrassing, but it is what it is. I absolutely love this movie about family. I mean, everybody's seen The Godfather, right? If you're watching this, you've probably seen The Godfather. But I was like, all right, if I have to, again, Desert Island movie that I'm going to rewatch over and over again, it's going to be The Godfather Part 1. And then I debated on this one because do I go with the original or do I go with this one? And I went with Top Gun Maverick. I love this movie, and I'm on the record. I think when I said on one of my earlier videos that I skipped this in theater. I thought this movie was just going to be a cash grab. I did not think that there was going to be really, I would say, substance to the movie. And so I skipped it in theaters, and it didn't help that my brother kept raving and raving about it. My brother and I tend not to have the same taste in movies, so when he was raving about it, I was like, that was made me less likely to want to go and watch it. So when it came out, I went ahead and rented it, and my God, I absolutely love this movie. Like, there's just something. I'm honestly, when I was thinking about these movies, I kind of started to notice a trend that movies that, as I've gotten older, that seem to make me feel a certain kind of way about getting older seem to last longer with me than movies that maybe when I was a kid or something like that, they hit a different way. Like these movies that they've honestly all been favorites. I could have gone with the early Top Gun, but there's just something about the aging Maverick and his one last chance and all that stuff that kind of goes into that movie. It just like, I love this movie. I remember I watched, again, this was another one. I rented it, and because I rented it digitally, I think I had 48 hours to watch it, so I watched it twice and then immediately went out and bought it, and I've watched it like a handful of times since then. It's another one of those movies that I would just put in to watch just kind of when I'm in the mood for stuff. It's just such a fun movie. It's got great action sequences. The story is better than it probably has any right to be for a sequel to a movie that was like 30 years old. I think Top Gun Maverick is an absolutely fantastic movie. And then a recent pickup for me, and that really told me, like, I knew this was going to make the list. This was probably the second movie that I absolutely knew, like, this is non-negotiable. But it's the movie Klaus. Me. This is a Netflix movie. This is a complete bootleg. I did this in my October haul video where, like, yeah, this is a bootleg movie, but that's because I absolutely had to have this movie. It's a Christmas movie, and it was gonna be between this and A Christmas Story, probably my two favorite Christmas movies of all time, and I can't pick a number one out of that. And I can watch either of them all the time. If you told me it's like you can't have this one, it would be A Christmas Story. So that would be like an alternate. There's just something about this movie. From the moment I watched it, I absolutely adored it. I was disappointed to find out they would never have a sequel to this, because this just feels like one of those movies that I would like to continue the story. But the director is on record saying this is the story of Santa before he's the myth of the guy who comes and delivers toys, like basically like an origin story of Santa Claus. This movie's phenomenal. Jason Schwartzman plays a character, this guy whose name I'm completely escaping out of me. J.K. Simmons plays Klaus. It's a phenomenal movie. Like, it's just so great, so much fun. The animation is fantastic. I can't speak highly enough about this. This movie makes me cry every year. Just that scene about the friendship and all that stuff, like, it's so great. If you have not seen Klaus, it's on Netflix. I highly recommend watching it. I watch it at least 2 or 3 times every holiday season. And I already mentioned Christopher Nolan, so you know there was going to have to be one of his movies on the list. And I did debate. I really kind of thought I would go with The Dark Knight, because who doesn't want to watch a Batman movie and over again, especially with that Heath Ledger performance? But as I thought about it, what Christopher Nolan movie do I watch over and over again? And it's Interstellar. This movie, let me get my face out of it so it'll focus on that. This movie to me is absolutely perfect. I think this does have a little bit of a, I don't want to say nostalgia, but it's got kind of pulls on the string, because before my father passed away, I rented this, showed it to my dad. He absolutely loved it. And then we both got the book with the science of Interstellar that kind of talked about the actual science that went into the story of this. And we would just honestly, we'd sit and have conversations about, space, and my dad loves science and all the stuff and exploration. We would both just kind of chit chat about that when he was sick and I was going back to Maryland to visit him all the time. And I try not to get choked up here. But I absolutely love this movie. So that movie, in addition to it being great, it honestly has all that with it too. I have the book of the Science of Interstellar as well. To me, that was enough to be like, all right, if that I actually went out and bought a book about the movie, that to me tells me like this is probably my favorite. Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite directors, but this movie to me is head and shoulders above everything else he's done. I absolutely love it. And I love this movie. Matthew McConaughey's performance is great. I think the story's great. I think everything about this movie is great. We have two more in the top 10. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to do my honorable mention movies. And I already mentioned this, and the name of the channel is Marvel Man Cave. So you would have probably been stunned if I did not have one Marvel movie on this list. And it was hard to pick which one that I would pick. because Jon Favreau is one of my favorite directors. So I was thinking about just picking the original Iron Man. I went with Avengers Endgame. I love this movie. It is probably one of my favorite. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think I definitely put it in the top 5. To me, I'm like, all right, if I'm going to encapsulate the MCU and only be able to want to watch one of these movies ever again, I mean, it's got every character, so at least it scratches that itch of it has everybody in the movie to begin with, so that helps. To me, it's just it provides so much like fan service. It's got a good story. I like how it wraps up that kind of phase of the MCU. It's just such a good movie. That scene where, Cap wields Mjolnir. I mean, it's just can't, it's even to this day, that scene, and then when Sam comes out of the portal and says on your left, like those scenes to me are just iconic, and they get me every single time. So I knew it was gonna have to be Avengers Endgame, but it was kind of one of those like, which ones do I pick out of this list? And I could not decide. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go with Endgame because I have an entire Funko collection dedicated to Endgame. Some things became obvious the more I thought about it. All right, before I get to number one, I'm going to go through my honorable mentions, and I'll go through these pretty quick. But I already mentioned it. But I'm going with A Christmas Story. Like I said, this is if Klaus is 1A, this is 1B. Again, a lot of this is tied into my dad. Literally, and I used to watch this when it was. I don't even know if TBS still runs it 24 hours on Christmas Day. But we would drive my brother nuts because we would put it on usually the night before Christmas. On Christmas Eve, we would watch it, and then we would just roll into Christmas Day, and we didn't even bother changing the channel. We just put it on TBS in the morning, and we would just roll through and watch this movie, and it never fails to elicit a laugh. So this has to be on the honorable mention list. And then I love the John Wick franchise, so I went with this. I got the stash book version of, so I went with John Wick Chapter 1, because again, which John Wick do I pick? And I'm like, well, I got to pick the one that starts it all. And to be perfectly honest, this is one of those ones that every time I seem to be in a hotel room and I'm flipping around channels, this is the one that seems to be on the most. And I always get caught watching it. Even with the commercials that come through, like I'll sit down there and I'll be like, oh, I'll watch a couple minutes. I've seen this movie so many times I've lost count. But it's one of those, like, every time it's on a hotel, like I just find myself watching it. And it's such a great movie, and it kicked off an entire franchise that I don't think anybody anticipated at the time. So that goes on the list. And I swear I'm not cheating, but this is the way I have it. I have the Star Wars, the original trilogy, but I'm only picking Empire Strikes Back. That's the only one I'm going to go with because, again, if I have to pick one of these, it's going to be Empire. Empire to me is a perfect movie. It's got the downer ending. I think it's got the good story. I just think it's the best of the 3 original movies, tied closely with A New Hope for me. And I only have it on Blu-ray right now because I keep hoping. I know they have them on 4K, so I'm looking for to get them on 4K as well. But I'm kind of hoping, especially there's been some rumbles lately that maybe Disney is redoing the original theatrical movies in 4K. So there's part of me that's want to wait. And I think in 2 years, it's what, the 50th anniversary? Yeah, there'll be 2027. So in like 2 years, it'll be the 50th anniversary of Star Wars A New Hope. And I'm kind of wondering if they're going to do something with then. So like I'm kind of trying to hold out to see if I can wait and get them then. And this was another tough one, but I went with the original Back to the Future. See if I can get that to focus. There we go. I went with the original Back to the Future. I love all 3 movies, and I might enjoy the third one out of all of them the most. I just think I kind of like the Western feel of it, but it's the original. To me, this is another movie like no notes. It's perfect. I absolutely adore this movie. I can watch it all the time. I just watched it this past week because it was what, the 40th anniversary of, or some, there was some anniversary with Back to the Future, so it was Back to the Future Day. So I went ahead and put this in. Again, this is another movie I've lost count of how many times I watched. So I'm like, you know what? That to me is the part I'm like, I generally will start. Even when I start the franchise, I don't start with 3, even though I really enjoy that one. I always start with this one. And then another my honorable mention that does not break the rules, I promise. But I went with the movie Chef. This to me, if you haven't seen this one, this is Jon Favreau. I think he did this after he did Iron Man 2. And to me, there's a lot of, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think there's some parallels in his character in Chef and maybe the real life Jon Favreau, because he did write and direct this, because it's about this chef who is very successful, kind of came up in the biz, he became very successful to the point where he could no longer just kind of do what he wanted to do, that he was kind of tied into like this. He was in this restaurant and he was making the food, but he was making the food for other people, and he wasn't making the food that he loved and that he enjoyed that kind of made him love being a chef. And so he ends up, I can't remember if he quits or gets fired, but something happens. I don't want to give too much away. But he ends up basically, as you can see, he kind of starts a food truck. And that kind of helps him fall in love with the art of cooking and stuff like this. This will make you want a grilled cheese sandwich if nothing else will. Like this movie, the grilled cheese sandwich, every time I see this one scene in this movie, I want to go home and make a grilled cheese sandwich. And I can't make a grilled cheese sandwich like this. I think this movie is great. I absolutely love it. It's got obviously John Favreau, John Leguizamo, Robert Downey Jr. makes a cameo in it. Scarlett Johansson is in it. It's got such a great cast. It's phenomenal. And obviously John Favreau is one of my favorite directors of all time. And I love him as an actor as well. So I highly recommend this if you haven't seen it already. And another one of my all-time favorites that I really was torn about not making the top 10 is the movie Casablanca. This is another movie kind of in that early part of going to college, and my professor recommended movies to me because I would ask him like, oh, what should I watch? He recommended Casablanca, and I was like, oh, this is black and white, and I can't remember what year this came out. Was it the 40s or 50s or something like that? I was like, I wasn't sure about this, but as soon, I mean, and even at that point in my life, you know, I knew like the beginning of A Beautiful Friendship. Like I knew lines from this movie, so I kind of had, I thought I knew what it was about. But sitting down to watch it, like honestly, the first time I saw it, I fell in love with it. I think it's such a great movie. Tricking Nazis who can't get down with that. But I think it's a great movie. It's a great story. It's just, I mean, who hasn't seen Casablanca at this point? Do I really need to show you Casablanca? But it was another one of those movies that was like, all right, if I had to be on a desert island, would I want to be without this movie? And it's just hard to, when I'm only allowing myself 10. I could have allowed myself 15, but I was like, I'm just going to stick with the real reserve and go with the 10. If I'm picking the alternates, just to kind of be able to talk about my love for these movies. And number one on this list probably should surprise no one if you've watched this channel for any length of time, but I'm going with the movie Swingers. This movie, it's literally my number one movie of all time. This is number one on Letterboxd for me. Not all these are on my top 10 in Letterboxd. I don't even think some of these probably aren't in my top 15 or top 20. But again, rewatchability. But Swingers is my number one favorite movie of all time. It's not directed by John Favreau, so I did not break my rule, even though Chef is an honorable mention. It does star John Favreau and Vince Vaughn. This movie, to me, is perfect. Directed by Doug Liman, which did not make another list. I could have picked one of the Bourne movies, probably the original Bourne movie. This movie is perfect. Again, it's kind of that early life, I would say early life crisis. John Favreau's character, Mikey, probably why I related to the movie a little bit more. Mikey moves to LA because he wants to be an actor, struggling actor. He's hanging out with other friends that are struggling actors and kind of living that what LA life, or at least the way we perceive it outside of California. And he's doing that, but he left his girlfriend behind, and they'd broken up because he'd moved out to LA. So he's kind of starting to regret moving to LA, and he misses his girl. And I think it's been a long time, but I'm pretty sure she cheated on him or she moved on with someone else. And so she had just he was really kind of a despondent part of his life. And then things happened. It's really about the friendship between John Favreau, Vince Vaughn, Rod Livingston is in here. It's got some other great actors in here as well. Heather Graham makes an appearance, a very young Heather Graham. So to me, it's just a great movie. I did go out and buy, this is an international release of the Steelbook. I own the original DVD that I have, plus the other DVD that I have. So it's got two different covers. And then I have a copy of I technically have two copies of Swingers on Blu-ray. One's the original, and one I got because that's the only way the movie made. The second movie, I think the first movie he ever directed, how that came out. So I have several versions of this movie in my collection, but I could not do a Desert Island top 10 and not have this movie. Even though in the probably past 10 years, I've probably only watched this like maybe 3 or 4 times. This is one of those movies I have watched so much over the course of my life that it's like Linus's blanket. I cannot see myself not having this movie in my life. So there is no way that I'm getting trapped on a desert island and not having this movie with me. But that's my Desert Island top 10 movies plus 5 honorable mentions. I would really love to hear what your top 10 are down below. If you decide to get inspired and do a video like this on your own, I would love to hear what your movies are. Please tag me, let me know, and let's share the love of movies. But I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. And don't forget, collect what you love.